This is Share the Vision, presented by the Resource Center, a discussion of the programs and services of the Resource Center and about issues related to individuals with disabilities. And today we talk about mental health. And I must just pause and say, after the February that we have had Steve Watterson, Community Relations Director at the Resource Center, we could all use a little mental health break, a little uplift. So I'm so glad you scheduled this program for today.
Well, I'm glad you're glad, Dennis. Yeah, it's been a long, cold winter. I think I heard the other day that this February is shaping up as the coldest month ever in Western New York. Who I was listening to is to be believed. So, a lot of people thrive on the cold weather, snowmobilers, skiers, people who like to ice fish. A lot of other people who would probably be happy if they never saw another snowflake the rest of their lives and the temperature never dipped below 40 degrees ever again. But that's not realistic for Western New York. So we thought we'd put a little show together to get people through the rest of winter. Spring is just around the corner, but give them some tips on how they can be happy and positive during this cold and bleak season.
Oh, I thrive and am energized by a little bit of winter. But when it gets as much as we have had, as cold as it has been, I think that there's sort of a turning point for all of us, and many people that I have spoken to recently have reached that point or gone beyond it.
Yeah, I think for a lot of folks, it's enough is enough time. And, the calendar's turning to March tomorrow, so that's the sign of warmer weather to come. The snow will not be around forever, and let's keep moving forward and thinking warm thoughts.
Joining me on Share the Vision today, in addition to Steve Watterson, who will be back with you a little later in the program, is Danny Spragliolo, Clinical Operations Coordinator here at the Resource Center. And I should add, we speak to you from 880 East 2nd Street, the Kappa Building. And Nicole Drosdale, licensed social worker, makes a return appearance to Share the Vision after a celebrated appearance here when we did our New Year's resolution show just a couple of months ago. So first, Danny, welcome to Share the Vision. Nice to have you on the radio with us.
It's wonderful to be here. And I'm one of those guys that likes winter, by the way.
I was just going to get to that in a moment, but first I wanted to say hello to Nicole. Welcome back to our show also.
And thank you very much for allowing me to join you again.
Now, Danny, you were telling us just before we hit the air here that you are a wintertime lover.
It's one of the reasons I've moved back here. I lived in Maryland for 27 years, having grown up here. Average annual snowfall there, 18 inches. I think maybe the average winter temperature might hover slightly above freezing. And this is certainly a banner year. I couldn't have asked for better.
And even at this point, Danny, if I may ask you the therapeutic question, you're not weary of it, even after this long, cold February with as much snow on the ground as anybody can remember? You're still good with it all.
I got up this morning. It was minus 3 degrees near the house, minus 6 degrees in the garage, and minus 8 on the road. It just kept getting better on my way to work. You could say, at some point, if you excuse the pun, you do get numb with it. But I think if you enjoy ice fishing, my God, it must be 14 inches thick out there now, or better. It's certainly secure ice fishing. If you enjoy skiing, if you enjoy snowmobiling, if you enjoy any of the winter sports that we're lucky to have here in this unique little ecosystem, really, this is the place to be. Why would you be sad?
Well, and this is the year to have been here, if you like all of those things. Let us go now to Nicole Drosdale and welcome her back again to Share the Vision. Nicole, do you share Danny's feelings about these conditions?
Well, I can certainly appreciate and respect his love of the outdoors, but I would probably take an opposing view at this point. I think I've probably fallen 6.9 times and tried to maneuver groceries through piles of snow and drag kids on carpools to numerous events. So I'm kind of on the other side of loving it and surely counting down the days until I can see the miraculous 40-degree thermometer and be able to walk without worrying about finding the cement very quickly.
So I thought we were going to do Share the Vision in this half hour today. What we're going to do is point counterpoint instead. But that's okay, because really all of us who have reached the end of this month and to this point in the season probably do need a little help, a little understanding, a little resumption of patience. And that's why we have come here today, to have you help us deal with perhaps not only the stressful situation that this weather has brought on, but other stressful situations in life. So, Danny, the nature of your work here, let's start building in the resource center part of this picture for our listeners. What do you do here?
Well, I started this fall. I'm the clinical operations coordinator. We have in the community between Dunkirk and Jamestown 4 physical locations that are community outpatient mental health clinics. And within the 2 of those, where there's also 2 sort of subsets. So that's 6 clinics in the community. Each of those clinics have clinicians, social workers, counselors, and I oversee the clinical aspect of that, the work that they do with the clients. And what I've got to stress is this is community mental health. This is you can walk in the door and say, I've got an issue I'd like to talk about, and we're here for that. And for any number of reasons, there's no real restriction here. We're here to provide service to whoever shows up.
And Nicole, the nature of your work here at the Resource Center?
I work as a clinician, which means when folks call in and they're interested in counseling, right away they're assigned to one of the many fine clinicians we have here. We've got clinicians that specialize in all different areas. So if a person comes in and maybe they're struggling with an addiction of some sort, or maybe they've had a history of trauma, maybe it's anxiety is a daily struggle, we've got folks that will sit down and work with them and give them some ideas for how to manage their symptoms and how to work through maybe some past struggles they've been kind of stuck in. So I really enjoy the work I get to do. I get to meet a lot of wonderful folks from around the community. And we're here Monday through Friday. We open up at 8 in the morning. We go through 6 p.m. in the evening. That way, folks, even if you're working, we have some after hours so you can come in before the end of the day.
Before I move this along any further, I want to go back to what is commonly known as seasonal affective disorder, the dark time of year, the snowy, cold time of year, and the effect that it has on people. Danny, even though you're one of those people who apparently would never have any opportunity or any occasion to suffer from that, I'm sure that you've met people over time, you have counseled people who have faced that sort of thing at this time of year or another. What do you say to them to help push them along, to help them steady their gait as they try and make it through this time of year?
Well, the first thing I'd say is that I may very well indeed suffer from seasonal affective disorder. And the way that I stay ahead of that is that I get outdoors as often as I can. You know, we get less vitamin D through exposure through the sun all winter long. Artificial light doesn't quite do it. I'm outside every weekend, every chance I can get, as much natural light as possible. In addition to that light, I'm also active. I'm doing something that is cardiovascular exercise, cross-country skiing, downhill skiing, whatever I'm doing. If I'm taking a dog for a walk, I'm being active. These are 2 things that you can do to stave off the effects of seasonal affective disorder.
So just get out, struggle though it may be, coats and boots and hats and all of that, and slippery, as Nicole suggested. Get out there and get moving.
Number 1 prescription from me.
Okay, Nicole?
Well, I would agree. And a lot of times folks will come into my office and they'll be like, what am I going to do? I'm feeling depressed. I'm overwhelmed. And even those who might have physical limitations where getting out and skiing or fishing might be difficult, I encourage folks, hey, if the sun is out today, sit by a window in your living room, pull back the curtains, read a book, read the newspaper, whatever, but get yourself in the sunlight and just allow that to really have an influence on your mood. Because what we find is even if you don't have the physical stamina or the ability to maybe participate in outdoor sports, you still can get some sunlight, get some exposure. And I agree 100% with what Dan said as far as exercise. There is nothing with the ability to change a mood than really getting your heart rate up and doing some things. And unfortunately, a lot of us, there's financial limitations. We can't afford that gym membership or maybe other things, but we can always get out and get moving even in our own homes. Maybe it's as simple as something as lifting water bottles in the living room or trying to walk a few extra laps around the grocery store. Just something to get our bodies moving a little bit stronger, a little bit better, and then that can help really do a lot of wonderful things to improve our mood overall.
I would like to ask both of you about another aspect of this challenge that comes to mind right now, and it may not be seasonal as much as it is social or cultural, in that it seems so difficult, at least as a working person myself, if I may speak on my own behalf and those that I know and encounter from time to time, to even carve out some time in the day that really belongs to me as a person for my own mental health. There are demands, expectations of me from the people that I work for and with, and in my position, the community, and certainly at home, and the family. And sometimes the day seems not only gray and cold outside, but an unending list, as I point to my piece of paper here, of expectations and things to do that I can never get through. How do you help people find the time to get out the door or to sit by that window?
It's a matter of priorities. I mean, at some point, you become the most important thing on the docket. And it's easy to let things go. It's easy to say, well, today I'm not going to go to lunch because I'm busy and I got to get this done. And today I'm going to go right from work and pick up the kids, and I'm going to go right from there and go to drop them off wherever they're going, and then I've got to go get dinner going, and then I've got to get the laundry done. It's so easy to just fall into that. The hard part is taking time for yourself, is to say, every day I'm going to eat lunch. I'm not going to work through lunch. Or every morning I'm going to stop. I'm going to read the paper for half an hour in front of that window or wherever. You have to make that part of your schedule. You have to make that repetitive enough where it starts to upset you if you don't do it. I'm the kind of guy I get upset if I have to stop and break. You know, it's got to be the opposite. You've got to make it so much a part of your day that you're bummed if it doesn't happen.
What are the pragmatic solutions or recommendations that you would give to people, Nicole, in order to create that space for themselves?
A lot of times we have an excuse, right? Our own self-care kind of goes to the back burner because we have this laundry list of expectations that we have to hammer out every day. And it's exactly like Dan said. We have to prioritize our own mental health and well-being, because how well are we going to be able to meet those expectations, work on those relationships, and accomplish the things we need to if we're so emotionally drained that we just feel like we've got nothing left to give. So when folks say to me, oh, I don't have time and I don't have money to spend on myself and I say, you know what? Find something you enjoy and schedule it into your day just like you would to making sure the kids eat. Schedule it into your day just like you would to make sure the bills are paid. So a lot of times, and I see this a lot when I get a lot of young moms in to come visit me, I say, what is something you can do in a few minutes' time that just makes you feel better? And it doesn't have to be huge, and it doesn't have to be costly or exotic. Maybe it's something as simple as a nice hot shower, taking time to paint my nails, taking time to read the newspaper or have a quiet coffee uninterrupted. All those things, it might happen in 15 minutes' time, but those 15 minutes might just be your very favorite 15 minutes of the day where you stop, you recharge, and you rejuvenate, and that just gives you that extra push you need to get through all the tasks and responsibilities you've got ahead.
One of the other things that occurs to me as we roll through this discussion is the temptation to do too much of certain things at this time of year, most of which are not necessarily healthy, and too much in terms of too much eating, too much social drinking or alcohol, too much smoking. I mean, this is one of those times of year when it seems easy to go overboard on the bad things. You're shaking your head up at that.
Oh, absolutely.
We see a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. And when folks try and cope, a lot of times we've gotten into this pattern, and I really think it's culturally here throughout the U.S. is the fastest way to feel better. Well, if one glass of wine makes me feel better, then 4 should make me feel great. And we get into these patterns where all of a sudden our ways of coping have now trickled out into our relationships or our ability to function or in other areas of our life. And so for as many good ways as we can set aside a time to nurture our own well-being and mental health, we want to do it in a way that's going to help us meet our goals better.
Yeah, we have to be mindful of that. It's a common malaise in the northern latitudes. If you look at the alcohol abuse problems in places like Norway, Finland, Iceland, it's pronounced, and it's probably, we can probably go right back to the initial conversation with seasonal affective disorder. I believe that March 8th is the daylight savings time this year. So it's coming right up on us. By March 20th, we will have daylight until after 7 p.m. I think when that occurs, we start finding more healthy things to do in the daylight than instead of staying home and having that extra glass of wine or falling into the bad habits that are, let's face it, easy to do, or they wouldn't be habits.
That's right. And the other thing is, too, when we get kind of stuck in the house, when we're in hibernation mode, it's really easy to grab things like chips and processed foods and things like that that are easy, that are comfort foods and things, but they don't exactly help our mood and well-being. So this time of the year where citrus is in its best shape in the southern area, there's a lot more healthy foods and things that we could be shopping for and bringing in, and even just making a priority to make healthier food choices is going to help us in a lot of different ways, especially in our mood. And also, another area that we haven't mentioned is addressing that physical illness, because just as a mom, I can tell you flu season in kids seems to have been even more so and longer than in the past. So that's
like
been
another. Yeah.
That's been another thing that's kind of brought folks down over the last.
So what we do around here at a meeting, I'm bringing in halos, clementines, not donuts. I'm bringing in vitamin C that's refreshing and good and better for you, and it seems to avoid the midday crash from too much sugar.
I want to
carbohydrates.
say on this edition of Share the Vision, we are at the Kappa Building at 880 East 2nd Street, which has become the center for many of the health delivery services of the Resource Center, including mental health. We're talking on this program today with Danny Sbragliola, who's the Clinical Operations Coordinator, and Nicole Drosdale, licensed social worker. We have 10, 12 minutes left here, so I hope radio listeners, you can take the next 10 to 12 minutes and claim them for yourself and listen to the wisdom being dispensed and shared with you by the experts in the room so that we can help put you, as a new month gets underway, on a very positive start. Talk to me, both of you, about if someone has issues that are greater than the mild seasonal affective disorder that I've certainly suffered with, and many radio listeners have communicated to me about over the last few weeks. What kind of structure, what kind of program do you set up for people to deal with more significant issues in their life? Take me in the room for a moment. Tell me how it works, how long it takes, all of that, Danny.
Well, I think the most interactive, the most personalized recovery-oriented services is what it's called. We have a PROS program. If you're struggling with addictions and you have a co-occurring mental health diagnosis, this is the program for you. This is individual therapy, group therapy, medical intervention where needed, and it's almost like being on a college campus here. You come during the day. You may have a group scheduled at 1 o'clock and maybe another one at 3, but you'll stick around in between and have your lunch and talk with some of your peers, talk with some of the clinicians. It's very open. Everybody's on the same floor and pretty much in the same space of trying to help everybody's recovery with, again, personalized services.
This is slightly different from the work that you do day to day, Nicole. Tell me about what it's like to come and talk to you, to work with you on specific, perhaps stubborn issues in our lives.
Well, another program that we offer here is through our Article 31, and that is general counseling for the community. So when folks are to the point where they recognize, hey, my depression's going a little bit further than maybe the foods I'm eating or the sleep I'm getting or the lack of sunlight, we are available for folks to come in and meet with a counselor. We usually will see folks anywhere from weekly to biweekly, even once a month for a check-in, and we'll talk and we'll address some of those stubborn issues. The big thing to recognize is that depression looks different on a lot of people. And so sometimes we'll see things like difficulty getting up, difficulty doing the self-care kinds of things like showering, shaving, those sorts of things. When you find that it's just too hard to get up and get moving and motivating, or maybe you're just really isolating yourself from the rest of the world, that's kind of one of those red flags to get you coming in for services.
And here's another thing with depression. It doesn't always look like sadness. Irritability can be and is often just as much a symptom as shutting down and losing the joy that you used to have in things you did, going completely the other way and being irritable and sort of a low rage all the time is another indication that you might want to get checked and see what's going on.
How does talking help solve these issues, whether it's the mild seasonal affective disorder that we've all gone through or some of the more, to use my word again, stubborn or persistent issues such as depression or anxiety? How does talking help?
I don't know about everybody, but I can talk with authority about myself. And I know that if I'm having a problem dealing with just about any issue you can think of, relationship, work, you name it, we've got them everywhere. I'm much healthier if I've got somebody to talk to, if I got somebody to talk with about those issues, whether it's family or friends or my coworkers. If it gets to the point where those discussions are now getting in the way of their normal functioning or mine, then I think it's time to go pro. Then it's time to seek a professional to help you through it. I think that knowing you're not alone in the situation, and also knowing that you're in a place now where you can talk about it without it influencing friendships, without it influencing your workplace, is very helpful.
So the level of candor then
Can be
much
blunt.
greater?
You can be as blunt as you need to be. Yeah.
And there's a safety in knowing that what is said between you and the therapist is just that. You can address maybe frustrations, pent-up things you've been struggling with but not able to communicate effectively in your personal relationships or your professional relationships. And a lot of times folks, maybe it's not the right setting, or maybe culturally they just think, I'm not comfortable sharing my feelings or going and addressing this issue that's really been bothering me. So counseling is a great opportunity to come, to have someone who just meets with you privately. You can share things. And a lot of times what I find when I meet folks in counseling, and I learned this from a great professor I had when I was in school, who said to me, you know what, the problem is many times not the problem. So when folks come in here and they start to talk about work or another person or such and such, a lot of times the more we start to delve into that a little deeper, there's a lot of other things going on beneath the surface. So we find counseling is a great opportunity to not only look at the issues that are straight out in front of us, but a lot of the ones that we're not recognizing that are really beneath the surface and creating some problem.
If I start this conversation with you, Nicole, or Danny, or other clinicians here, how long will the conversation go on? How long does it have to keep going in order to be successful in helping me make changes in my life?
Well, we usually start out with a goal that we agree on. And if you don't have a goal, you don't know if you've gotten anywhere, right? So it may be that you need to get over the immediate urgency of whatever it is you're feeling, whatever that issue is. It may be that the goal is not only to get past that, but be able to maintain your well-being over time, which certainly I think is a worthy goal. It's one thing to get through the crisis. It's another thing to put into place those kinds of habits that we talked about earlier, healthy habits instead of your go-to not-so-healthy choices.
Sometimes there are certain relationships where it just needs some work or the opportunity to communicate in a safe manner. So family counseling is another thing that we often find where folks will bring in their intimate partners, parents, siblings, children, and just kind of need a...
Can I bring my boss in?
Yeah, bring a third person in for kind of that to help facilitate those conversations that have been hard to work through.
We have only about 5 minutes left in this program. I'm going to give the last couple of minutes to Steve. So this is a little unfair, but it does seem to be an issue that many people deal with, not only at this time of year, but others. And I just wanted you, Danny, and Nicole to speak to it too, and that is the sense of loss. Whether you had an adult child who lived close by and moved away, or you had a romantic attachment or a relationship and it ended, or there was a death of an elder member of the family, or something as apparently inconsequential as you lost a dog or a cat that you were very close to. How do you help people come to terms with loss?
Well, the textbooks will tell you that there are stages of grief and that you have to work through each stage. And once you've completed one, you move on to the other, and pretty soon you're through the whole process and you're able to live your life normally again. I don't think you'll ever live your life normally again, but I can say this, and again, I can speak with authority on issues I've been through. And it seems to me that there's a reason that the rearview mirror is much, much smaller than the windshield. At some point, you stop looking back at what you've lost, and you realize there's still plenty of road in front of you. There's still destinations. There's still places to go.
Nicole?
And just like you said, when we talk about the stages of grief, a lot of times people feel guilty. They feel like, hey, I've gotten 2 weeks down the road, 3 months down the road, 6 years down the road. Why is this hurting so bad still? So counseling is a great place for you to be able to come in and with no judgment, just the freedom to acknowledge the fact that, man, this still hurts.
And explore.
And explore, why does it still hurt, and why was this loss impacting my life the way it was, and how do I take those steps forward? How do I find a new way of going on without whatever it is that the person lost?
How can people contact you here at the Resource Center? Because as Danny, you made the point a little earlier. This is a service that is open to anyone in the community, that you can begin to do this, work through these issues.
Well, the Mental Health Counseling Agency, right here, the main number for all intake appointments is 661-1590. And we have a very nice staff out front that's there to help set you up and make appointments and get you going. We also have taken every step we can to get folks in as quickly as we can, because we know that by the time folks call for counseling, it's usually the point where they're really struggling and they really want to talk to someone quickly. So we want to get you in and get you in the doors and seen as quickly as possible. That way we can help you for maybe it's in the short term while you work through an issue. Maybe it's for the long term if it's a chronic condition that keeps coming up. But either way, we're available Monday through Friday. You can call 661-1590, and the folks here at the Resource Center will be happy to get you in.
And this happens on a fee basis, usually work through insurance, just to help people understand the other part of this?
The people up front would explain it to you, but yeah, it's whatever your insurance can cover. The last thing we're going to do is turn somebody away because they have no insurance, and the last thing we want to do is make anybody wait a long time. If you come to us with an issue, I don't think it serves anybody for you to make an appointment for next week. Our goal is to get you in within 24 hours and be able to, while these things are weighing on you, sort through them.
Well, thank you very much, Danny Spragliolo, Clinical Operations Coordinator here at the Resource Center, and Nicole Drosdale, Licensed Social Worker. Great to have you both on this program today. I feel better. I hope Steve, we'll find out if Steve feels better in a moment. I hope our listeners have benefited from this as well. Steve Watterson is the Community Relations Director at the Resource Center and has listened to this entire conversation.
Oh, great stuff. Great stuff. Danny and Nicole are awesome. So very nice to listen to. I see us having them back on the program again in the future.
I look forward to that, Steve. And maybe we could do a show outside on a warm day with birds singing and a light breeze blowing through Allen Park or someplace where we could take
I'll be the depressed guy who can't ski.
Yeah, Danny will be depressed. We'll help him through that half hour. Steve, before the time is completely gone here and we laugh too much, Resource Center news, events, anything you want to put out to the community in general?
Just a couple things going on this week, Dennis, that I want to let people know about. If they want to help support either of these initiatives, that'd be fantastic. There's a nationwide thing going on called Spread the Word to End the Word. It's been going on for a few years to try to get people to stop using the words retard or retarded because of their negative connotations. The first Wednesday of March every year is National Awareness Day for Spread the Word to End the Word. So they're making a push right now. You can go sign an online pledge where you can say you're going to do your part to try to end the word. We've got a paper pledge down at our administrative offices at 200 Dunham Avenue in Jamestown, the old Celeron School. So anybody who wants to come down and just sign that pledge, that'd be fantastic. I took the online pledge yesterday. I think there's 520,000 people that have done it. But anyone who wants to do that or find out some more, they can go to the Resource Center's website at resourcecenter.org and find out some information. The other thing going on, I think we've talked before about a group of people called the Flying Flamingos.
Sure.
They are famous for dressing up in pink and wearing flamingo hats every year and participating in the turkey trot race up in Buffalo on Thanksgiving morning. They've done that for a few years and raised some money for our Kathy Seastead Dream On Fund, which supports individuals with disabilities in the community who have immediate, urgent needs. One of the flamingos was Kathy's sister, so that's why they have the closeness to that fund. They weren't able to raise money for last year's turkey trot, and they felt badly about that. So they are running in the Shamrock Run up in Buffalo this Saturday. And they have set a fundraising goal of $2,000. And as I was looking at things Friday morning, they were at about the $1,450 mark, so they're within $550 of that. But if anybody would like to make a donation in support of that fund, again, they can go to the Resource Center's website, www.resourcecenter.org, and find the link to the Flying Flamingos webpage and make a donation. It's for a great cause. $2,000 will certainly help us a little bit, but that fund probably goes through $18,000 to $20,000 every year because there's a lot of folks in the community who just don't have the money for some of the things that they need. So appreciate any contributions anyone can make, and that's about it.
Well, to Danny Spragliolo, Nicole Drosdale, and Steve Watterson, thank you all for sharing the vision today.